This episode is brought to you by State Farm. From your morning podcast to your afternoon playlist, State Farm knows you personalize your entire day, and that's why State Farm helps you personalize your insurance with the State Farm Personal Price Plan. It offers coverage options that help protect what you care about most at an affordable price just for you. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Prices vary by state. Options selected by customer. Availability and eligibility may vary.
This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. It's tax season, and we're all a bit tired of numbers. But here's one you need to hear. $16.5 billion. That's how much the IRS flagged for possible identity fraud last year. Now here's a good number. 100 million. That's how many data points LifeLock monitors every second. If your identity is stolen, they'll fix it, guaranteed. Save up to 40% your first year at LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
This podcast contains adult themes and language, and some of the things that we discuss may be disturbing to some listeners. In this podcast, we discuss sexual assault, torture, race, and murder. Listener discretion is advised. Please take care of yourself.
So now it's time to dive in Menhaz Zaman's early life. What do you got for us, Beth?
In the late 80s, Menhaz Zaman, described as a serious young man, immigrated from Bangladesh to Canada, seeking a better life for himself and his future children. His parents arranged a marriage for him, and his young wife, Mumtaz Begum, soon followed him to Canada.
So in 1996, their son Menhaz was born, and 2 years later, they had a daughter that they called Malesa, a Bengali twist on the name Melissa. I think that's beautiful.
It is.
Menhaz established himself at a local taxi business. By 2011, he was working for Beck Taxi, where he was recognized as one of the company's outstanding drivers of the month several times.
They were able to save enough money to buy a house and then some rental properties, which Mumtaz managed. They also rented out the basement of their home to tenants. Mumtaz's mother, Firoza, soon emigrated from Bangladesh too, often caring for the children while their parents worked.
Acquaintances said that they were a happy social family that enjoyed spending time with friends and were very involved in the Bangladeshi community. The couple was proud of their roots and made sure their son and daughter were respectful of their Bangladeshi heritage. They taught their children the importance of family and a strong work ethic.
Menhaz Zaman was described by friends as a charming woman and a nurturer who was constantly smiling. She loved to cook and take pictures. When she and her friends went out for meals, she often picked up the check. She offered rides to friends who needed them.
Once, a neighbor told her that her food reminded him of his mother's back home. After that, she'd regularly spend hours preparing curries for him, then carry them down the street to his house. Menhaz was more introverted, described as a very quiet, soft-speaking, polite gentleman. He was humble, industrious, and deeply devoted to his Muslim faith.
Menhaz wanted Menhaz to become an engineer. According to a close family friend, quote, "In our community, you have to be a doctor or an engineer," unquote. That's pretty.
I can relate.
Those are the two careers you can have.
That's it. What about
That's it.
podcaster?
Nope.
Nope. That's not on the list.
Menhaz was a dutiful son, and he was reportedly his parents' favorite, and his mother doted on him.
Around strangers, Menhaz was shy. At school, he kept to himself. He was a decent student, enrolled in the physics, chemistry, and math classes that would get him into an engineering program, like his father wanted. He didn't initiate conversations or raise his hand in class. He didn't date or go to parties.
Menhaz's parents often bragged about their son. They'd proudly tell everyone that he always put his family first and that he was going to get an engineering degree, so he had a bright future ahead.
I wonder if his parents told him that. You know, they thought he had a bright future, or if it was just something they told other people. Because sometimes when our parents are proud of us, we don't know. We're like the last ones to know.
They don't say anything. Yeah, I don't know.
I'm just curious.
But it seems to me like he knew that that's what he had to do anyway.
Yeah.
Regardless.
Yeah, you're right. Although Melissa was devoted to her family and to Islam, like many teenagers, she was a little rebellious in high school. There was some tension between Melissa and her parents, and they often fought. But a lifelong friend of hers said, quote, she had the sweetest heart and was always willing to listen and care for everyone she knew, unquote.
When his parents and Melissa fought, Menhaz would sometimes try to intervene, but often he would just put on headphones and play video games to drown out the yelling. By 2019, Melissa was at university and was planning to become a neurosurgeon.
Whoa! That's amazing that somebody can have that thought. Like, never in my
I'm gonna be a neurosurgeon.
A neurosurgeon? Is it?
Yeah.
Am I being punked? Wow!
Not
I just think
something
that
I
is
would have ever thought of.
Yeah, that is
Yeah.
incredible for a woman of color, first generation, to be like, I'm gonna be a neurosurgeon, y'all. I just think it's really cool. That same year, Menhaz left the house every day to catch the bus for York University, where he told his parents he was studying mechanical engineering. He had never really been in any trouble in his entire life.
Although their marriage had been arranged, friends said that Moniruz and Momtaz were very much in love. And in June of 2019, they celebrated their 25th wedding anniversary with
Oh.
friends and family.
Mm.
Menhaz made a slideshow for the party and gave a speech, telling everyone how lucky he was to have parents as kind and generous as his were. And everyone clapped.
Mm. To her friends, Momtaz always talked about how well her son was doing. Menhaz was excelling in his mechanical engineering program at York University, she told them, and still going to mosque with his father.
Menhaz was due to graduate on July 28th, and there were discussions about him doing a master's degree afterwards. But he had a secret.
Uh-oh.
There wasn't going to be a graduation.
No.
For 3 years, he'd been faking going to school.
Whoa!
But he had a plan for how he was going to avoid telling his parents.
Wow. I don't think I computed that this ruse went on for 3 whole years.
Yeah.
No books? No homework assignments? No study groups?
No, nothing.
No late nights? No. Whoa. Okay.
Still getting around to that fix on your car? You got this. On eBay, you'll find millions of parts, guaranteed to fit. Doesn't matter if it's a major engine repair or your first time swapping your windshield wipers. eBay has that part you need, ready to click perfectly into place. For changes big and small. Loud or quiet. Find all the parts you need at prices you'll love. Guaranteed to fit every time. But you already know that. eBay. Things, people, love. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
Something is creeping in. Don't follow it down. Let me introduce you to Barry Clue, an authorised financial advisor from New Zealand and a very special kind of stain on humanity.
He was a very knowledgeable young guy.
He was a registered financial advisor.
Type of guy that was bending over backwards to help you.
Now, you could be forgiven for thinking that Barry sounds like a great guy, and you'd be right. Well, right up until the point when you're wrong.
It was all fictitious.
She stole from my son who has a disability.
Chris never knew. He died believing that we're all taken care of.
A psychopath is somebody who lacks empathy, acts impulsively. I think there's a strong case that Barry might be all of those things, actually.
To find out how Barry Clue stole over $15 million from 81 victims, subscribe to Clueless, the long con. That's Clueless, spelt Klooghless.
Now it's time to get into the timeline. So, Zaman hadn't started at York University at all. He had enrolled at a local college, but he'd quickly failed out. And despite being given the chance to repeat his classes, he dropped out for good after a couple of semesters.
But he still left the house every day, pretending he was going to York University.
Huh?
Every Monday through Thursday morning, he walked down to the bus stop on 16th Avenue, where crowds of York students from the neighborhood waited every day, many of them his former high school classmates.
And we should also, his parents were immigrant people with this mentality of hard work, and they weren't yet retired, right? So it's totally plausible that they didn't notice the details, I guess.
Yeah.
And the devil is in the details. So he'd arrive on campus, then wander the school grounds for hours or find somewhere quiet to sit. In the afternoons, he'd work out at the gym near his house before heading home, or he'd get off the bus at the mall and walk around, eventually finding a seat in the food court where he could use his laptop.
His family didn't suspect anything, and Zaman's behavior at home raised no suspicions. He told his parents he had a full scholarship and that he earned excellent grades. At the same time, he was growing disillusioned with Islam, and he identified himself online as an atheist.
Oh, I was also just going to say another thing in my experience as the kid of an immigrant is like your scholarship funds, your grades, all that stuff. Your parents just want to know that it's okay, right? They're not checking the grades. They're not calling the financial aid offices. Like, you have to take care of that stuff yourself and just get it done, right? So I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, I was curious about that because my parents were super nosy.
Yeah.
They're like, let me see your
grades.
grades.
Your grades. Show me your report card.
And they were, checking everything.
Right. So what was he doing all that time alone on campus or at the mall? Well, he was playing a modified video game called Perfect World Void. Perfect World is a multiplayer online role-playing game developed by a Chinese online gaming company.
It's been online since 2006 with international servers since 2008. It's easily accessible and international, so people from all over the world play it. It's heavily influenced by Chinese mythology and set in the mythical world of Pangu. Characters are highly customizable, which players really like.
And private servers allow for modifications of the game, and Perfect World Void was one modification of the game on a private server. Zaman was spending so much time on Perfect World Void that some friends say he'd be playing when they logged off to go to sleep at night and still be there when they logged back on in the morning. What?
Wow. Mullen Ayub, whose username was Maroon, a software engineering student from Israel, ran the server. He said the one rule on Perfect World Void was that there were no rules, which he readily admits allowed for more toxicity.
Yeah, that's not a good rule.
Yeah, no, it's a bad rule. Austin from Texas was also an admin and moderator. We'll be using the usernames when talking about the game, and Zaman's was Menhaz.
So there were a number of trolls on Perfect World Void. One player commented, quote, "If you're not a troll on Perfect World, you will be the victim," unquote. Female players often use masculine names and characters because you know how women are treated on the internet and on video games in particular. Remember Gamergate? Or just
we're treated like
everyday life on the internet. Women are not safe on the internet.
Yeah, there was a forum that I used to post on back in the day when everybody posted on forums.
Oh.
And the men got so
nasty
and awful that after a while there were no women on the forum anymore.
Wow.
And it happened so gradually that I don't think people noticed until, the women were all gone.
All of a sudden they looked up and they're like,
they're like, where are all the women at? You trolled us all off.
Yeah. Well, that's so interesting that it's almost like in my mind, what do you expect to happen when you troll people? And if you want a place to be like fun and safe and cool, like if you make it not that, then would you want to be on it if you are a troll? And what we know about trolls is they tend to be really unhappy people on the inside. And so
unhappy and angry.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing your internet truth with us, Beth.
Some of the Perfect World Void trolls described Menhaz as the biggest troll in the game.
Oh.
His character was an elf cleric responsible for healing others, and he was known to be a decent player. He attributed his social difficulties to autism, a diagnosis most friends doubt he ever had, and called himself the most famous autist in the game.
I don't think that's, I'm on a neurodivergent journey myself, and I don't think that's how they refer to themselves within the
No.
community. So
No.
clearly he's a big fat liar. So his trolling was initially described by players as lighthearted. He liked to make edgy comments and jokes, but that changed gradually over time. He began to deride Islam and use racial slurs. He talked about suicide a lot, but made it seem like a dark joke. And did you watch the documentary?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, so yeah, that girl, I can't remember what her name was.
Nicole.
Yes. Oh, she was like, he was saying some wild stuff that would have got anybody else kicked off, sent to like internet jail immediately. So
yeah. He also began talking about killing his family, a disturbing development that players considered a bad joke. Even when he attached a date to when he would do the act, people just thought he wanted to make it even darker and then troll everyone on the date that he said.
Wow. So the Menhaz account's actions became so extreme that on July 11th, he got temporarily banned. We all know how effective temporary bans are on the internet, right?
Yeah.
So for making racist comments, quite a feat on a game that had no rules. He particularly targeted Muslim immigrants.
Austin would ban him when too many people complained about his behavior, but then would let him back in because they were friends, and he felt bad for Menhaz because he had no friends in real life. Menhaz once told a fellow player that he was grateful that he had made friends on the forum that he could talk to.
I see all the humanity around and the people around him, but I don't know what to make of all this. So Discord is software used by hundreds of millions of gamers around the world to communicate online. And a lot of communications between players on PWV, Perfect World Void, was on Discord. Menhaz talked about leaving the game. When his friends asked where he'd go instead, he replied, quote, "Perfect World Jail. Gonna kill my parents and go to jail, yo," unquote. I'm not going to turn that into a drop because it's not cool. And his friends just shrugged it off.
He changed his online handle in Perfect World Void to Subhuman and then Don't Deserve Life.
Whoa.
He spoke to his friends online about killing himself, always framing his comments as jokes. His fellow gamers were never really sure whether or not to take him seriously.
So his comments had always been like problematic, but things really ramp up like after his parents' anniversary, July 11th, and now we cut to July 25th. Menhaz said in a group chat, "I'm here just to have fun," and posted random pictures from the game. Then he said that his life was about to end because someone had tipped off the authorities regarding some sort of plan that he had hatched. Nobody realized what it meant. After that, the Menhaz account went quiet.
On July 27th, 2019, it being summer, a lot of people were playing on the Perfect World Void server. They remember Menhaz was just acting normal, playing the game and joking around. Zaman's dad was at work, and his sister was at her part-time job at a grocery store. Momtaz's mother, Firoza, who had her own apartment in Toronto, was visiting the family that weekend.
Mother and daughter were napping around 3 p.m. when Menhaz killed his mother by hitting her with a crowbar, then slitting her throat with a kitchen knife.
Yikes.
Then he did the same thing to his grandmother.
Yeah. After the two murders, Zaman waited for the return of his sister and father, spending his time playing video games and napping. One Perfect World Void member, John, noticed that Menhaz had grown particularly quiet, and around 10 p.m., he sent a chat to check up on him.
Menhaz told John in a Discord message that he had killed mother and grandmother and sent graphic pictures of two women on the ground covered in blood. John thought he was trolling, but he was disturbed by the photos.
He started a different Discord chat with other Perfect World Void players and asked people to check if the photos could be found on the internet. He thought that Menhaz had pulled the images from the internet as part of a bad joke.
I think any of us would have been like,
haha,
okay, bro.
Did you post on forums when they were popular?
I mean, if you consider Black Planet and MySpace forums, yes.
Forums. So there was always somebody who was playing some kind of joke, like they would fake that they were like a family member and say that the person died, and then it would turn out that they didn't die.
What?
Yeah, there was always shit like that
lot?
going on. A lot.
I'm concerned. Our culture.
So I can totally see these people being like, yeah, this guy's full of shit.
Oh my God. I guess I didn't realize I'm new to this culture, Beth. So thank you for illuminating that for us. I did not realize.
This was in the early 2000s
Yeah.
when I was posting. So
Yeah.
that's what was going on then. Yeah. I've never really posted or used Discord, so I don't really know what goes
I
on
don't
there.
use Discord either, but I know that Discord is still a very active place on the internet. But never in my wildest dreams did I imagine I would see a murder unfold.
Yeah,
Or
on
multiple
Discord.
murders.
Yeah.
So here we go. So the group searched in vain to find the photos on the internet, doing Google searches and other image searches, but could not find them anywhere. Slowly, it dawned on the players that Menhaz might be telling the truth.
The gamers were, for the moment, the only people in the world who knew about the homicides. Then Menhaz said he was going to kill his sister when she came home from work in about 5 minutes.
Oh my God. So the gamers panicked and they decided to act. So they're working together. They're trying to, track the person behind the Menhaz account's real world address in order to alert the police, try to save his sister. What's the IP address? What's the IP address? But they didn't know his real name and they didn't even know what country he lived in. So they attempted to learn more about him by going through old chats.
But they were unable to save his sister. When Melissa came home from work at around 11 p.m., Zaman struck her over the head with a crowbar, leaving her to bleed out on the floor. He then sent a picture of her dead body over chat, still wearing her name tag, which was pinned to her work shirt.
To prove that it was his family that he had slain, and I don't know why he felt the need to say, I'm going to do bad stuff, and then prove to you guys I'm going to do bad stuff. Menhaz shared a photo of the family together while they were alive, cutting what appeared to be a birthday cake. He then told John and the others that he was, quote, waiting for his dad to come home to kill him in about an hour. Unquote.
By then, the gamers not only believed the murders were real, but they were ongoing and they had only an hour to prevent the next death. They tried to keep him on the computer and talking. They asked him why he did it, why he didn't confide in anyone, why he felt like murder was the only way out. And they were trying to keep him talking so that he wouldn't murder his father.
So in response, Zaman wrote, quote, it's been my plan for 3 years. I literally told my parents my uni graduation was July 28th. I couldn't have delayed it any longer. I did this because I don't want my parents to feel the shame of having a son like me. I'm a pathetic coward and subhuman. Since I'm an atheist, I believe there's no afterlife. So I was scared to die, and I wanted them to die so they didn't suffer knowing how much of a pathetic subhuman I was. It's all very selfish. I'm just pathetic, unquote.
He wrote that he had lied to his parents for 3 years about attending university and that instead of attending classes, he would go to a local mall each day and sometimes work out at a nearby gym. He wrote that he became depressed, became an atheist, and ultimately created this plan.
So it's all coming out. The truth is all coming out. But the truth could have come out like before.
A lot earlier.
I mean, So as some of the gamers attempted to keep him busy chatting, others were trying to figure out who he was and where he lived. Austin called 911 in Texas, but they couldn't help. One gamer who lived in Tunisia called Crime Stoppers International. Finally, by tracking down his IP address, they figured out that he lived in Toronto, Canada, but they still didn't know where in Toronto nor his full name.
Around midnight, Zaman saw the headlights of his father's taxi swing into the driveway and heard the garage door open. He stepped away from his computer and confronted his father in the garage, bludgeoning him with the same crowbar he'd used to attack his other family members. Then he returned to his computer and wrote, quote, I've just slaughtered my entire family, unquote.
Oh! Well, that's not something you see every day. I choose to kill them instead out of my own cowardice. I know it might sound confusing, but what's done is done, and what had been planned has been concluded. He then said he would be turning himself in, writing, I deserve punishment. Yeah, you do.
Yeah. A user in Minnesota was able to contact Toronto police, who alerted York Regional Police, but it took them most of the day to track down Zaman's location in Markham.
Now we're going to get into the investigation and the arrest. Hit it, Beth.
At around 3 p.m., police officers knocked on the front door to do a wellness check of the family. Menhaz wrote to his friends on Discord, quote, "The police are here. Goodbye," unquote, before signing off one last time.
Wow. And I think that was the last message he ever posted.
He ever posted. Yep.
So York Regional Police arrested Menhaz Zaman at the scene and charged him with 4 counts of first-degree murder. The autopsy showed that Zaman initially hit each of the 4 victims, likely with a crowbar, and then slit their throats. Now we're going to get into the trial. What the what, Beth?
In September 2020, Zaman pleaded guilty to 3 counts of first-degree murder of Firoza, Monaruz, and Meleza, and 1 count of second-degree murder of Momtaz. And I'm not really sure why they did it that way, but that's the way they did it.
Yeah, I was curious about that also.
Yeah, the only thing I can think is because Momtaz was the first to be killed.
Okay.
Because I think first-degree murder is more planned out.
Yeah.
So they maybe...
Yeah, and that was probably some good lawyering by his defense attorney's part.
Defense. Yeah. Zaman said in an agreed statement of facts that he'd killed his family because they were about to find out he had lied for years about going to York University to become an engineer.
At the sentencing hearing in November 2020, so this is like coronavirus time. Like we're all in the pandemic, in the pandejo. He apologized to anyone he had impacted negatively with his killings. At the hearing, the Crown and the defense agreed that parole ineligibility should run 25 years concurrently for the first-degree murder charges, plus 15 years of parole ineligibility for the second-degree murder count, making his total parole ineligibility 40 years.
The judge was openly damning about his actions and said that what he'd done was deeply disturbing and deserving of severe punishment. She said, quote, "Words such as brutal, cruel, cold, and callous do not begin to convey the enormity of his violence. It is difficult to imagine a more horrific way to take a human life than by slitting the victim's throat. Mr. Zaman did so not just once, but 4 separate times over a span of hours," unquote.
Whoo!
Yeah.
My name is Bill Huffman, and I am a former Cleveland news producer, and I am now the host of the podcast, Who Killed? I began the show focusing on the unsolved murder of Amy Mihalovic, and now each week I explore a different case with a focus on some of the victims who don't get the attention they deserve. I have a deep catalog of over 225 episodes, so there is a guarantee there will be something for you. Who Killed is an evergreen podcasts, killer podcasts, and slow burn media production. Subscribe today wherever you get your favorite shows.
So now we're going to get into where are they now? Well, I'll tell you. Zaman is currently serving his prison sentence at Central East Correctional Center, aka Lindsay Jail in Lindsay, Lohan, Ontario. Just kidding. It's just regular Lindsay, Ontario. He is expected to live in the prison without the possibility of parole until 2060. He'll be 64 years old when he is first eligible to apply for parole.
The murder sent a current of fear through the Bangladeshi-Canadian community about the clash between traditional expectations and the realities of immigrant children growing up in North America. Many of the family's friends had thought of Menhaz as an ideal child.
Yeah, and just those 2 words make me really uncomfortable. Like, ideal child.
Nobody wants to be the ideal child. Nobody wants that.
No,
it's too much pressure.
It's too much, and it's what is it? It's not even a real thing.
Yeah,
we
it's
just
not
want
real.
Children to be like happy, healthy humans.
Yeah, that's what I want.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's interesting. So a couple of weeks after the murders, their friends came together in Taylor Creek Park for a picnic, the way they had so often with Moni Ruse and Momtaz before, to mourn the family. They gathered together to pray. The parents were scared. Could anything have been done to prevent his crimes? Were they overlooking signs of distress in their own children?
2 months after the murders, 30 of Zaman's friends and neighbors attended a seminar held by the Vision Infinite Foundation. The organization is meant to help the Bangladeshi-Canadian community with health and career-related issues.
That's pretty cool that there's something like
That's
that in
very cool.
Canada for the
Yeah.
community. It's run by Shahid Khander, who lives around the corner from the Zaman's former home. The seminar was designed to address the communication gap between kids and parents. Yeah, there's a huge generational gap between your immigrant parents and you, and with a psychiatrist and psychologist on hand to answer questions. So now we're going to get into what we think made him snap and our takeaways. What do you think, Beth, my friend?
Well, we don't really need to speculate about it because he told us.
Right?
Yeah. He said, I wanted them to die so that they didn't suffer knowing how much of a pathetic subhuman I was. It's all very selfish. And it was very selfish. He obviously had self-esteem issues and just couldn't handle it when his lies were going to be exposed. I can't relate to the murder part.
Yeah.
But I can relate to the part about not wanting to tell your parents that you fucked up.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And he was planning this for 3 years.
Yeah.
So it was 3 years of feeling bad about yourself because you're fucking up and you're not doing anything about it. And you're not talking to anybody about it. You're living a fake life for 3 years.
Yeah.
So
I think would you call him a sociopath or a psychopath? What?
I don't know, because the murders are so awful.
Yeah, they're pretty gruesome.
And to be able to do that, I don't know what has to be wrong with you to be able to do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. It all seems like I was under the impression, I agree with you completely. But the word that comes to mind is twisted. And he, I remember learning about the word facade, and he put this weird facade on he was one character on the internet. He was another character with his family and another character in the world. And then they didn't jive. And it was
none of them talked to the other ones.
None of them talked to the other ones. And it was like, it was too much. When the big reveal was going to come, it was just too much.
Yeah.
And I've been very honest on the show about I've had struggles with suicidal thoughts and feelings, etc. But I've been lucky enough to have support. But I just wonder, what would we say? Would we call his actions selfish if he had just killed himself? I'm wondering.
Right.
I don't know. It was a thought that I had, and I'm just putting it out there. Also, his culture, my impression is they have tremendous respect for elders, and his grandma was one of the first people he killed. What the heck? And then the family values that he was, that his parents poured into him, his family poured into him, and he seemed to be going along with and didn't give any indication that it wasn't working for him. Like, he could have said, this isn't my path. I don't like this.
And my understanding is that his sister Melissa, she did push back.
Yeah.
And that's what was causing all the
conflicts with her parents
when she was a teenager.
Right.
But sometimes we think that the kid who is causing all the problems when they're a teenager is, the troubled child.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's the kid who goes along with everything and who doesn't cause you any problems. That's the kid you need to worry about.
That is a really good point. You gotta watch those quiet ones.
Well, it's because they're not pushing back. When you're a teenager, that's
pretty natural to do. That's part of how you grow, I think.
And so if you're not pushing back and you're just going along with the flow, you may not know who you are and you might not know, what to do.
Right.
And you're not reaching out to anybody. And so that's causing a lot of inner turmoil. So that's why.
And
yeah,
no, you're absolutely right. That inner turmoil, I'm glad you said that, because it will come out eventually. And it did.
Yeah.
Also, the expectations were pretty high for him to succeed. It was like,
And
I think in his
I
mind,
don't think
succeed or
he
die.
felt like he could do it.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
exactly.
And also, I found interesting that he trolled Muslim immigrants in particular.
And that's where that
turning
self-hate comes from, right? That
Well,
you're
I
turning
was
the gun on
wondering
yourself.
if he was angry at himself or his parents.
I think both. That self-hatred,
Yeah.
he turned to atheism. Just a complete rejection of the religion and the culture that you were brought up in, because self-hate kind of manifests in different ways. I, as a Black person who grew up Christian, like, have a really, I'm still unpacking it. I'm talking to my therapist about it tomorrow, but it's self-hate is real, and it causes you. I think of a bully, a bully who's maybe bullied at home by parents or an older sibling, and takes it out on the kids on the bus or the kids at school.
Right.
It's that acting out what you internalize on other people.
Yeah.
And there is help for it, right? But if you
Yeah.
don't know, or you're afraid to seek it out, then you don't get it.
Yeah.
And so I think that was a contributing factor. I was also struck by, in watching the documentary, how people who are customarily ignored in society, the people on the internet, the gamers who are able to, these introverts who really they felt like superheroes to me. Like the woman who, I can't remember her name, but she's maybe not conventionally beautiful. The people of color, the people in countries that we might hear the country's name and think, oh, well, I don't want to mess with that. You know what I mean? As Americans.
Yeah.
But who acted heroically and with great humanity and care in real life to try to defeat this.
Doing everything they could to try and stop this.
Yeah. And I thought.
And then when they couldn't stop it, then, at least to try to get him caught so that he couldn't do anything else.
Yes. And I thought that was really like, it felt like, in a really tragic story, a really wonderful, remarkable thing to behold, to see people who typically would have been ignored or been like, they're not this, they're not that, but they did something pretty amazing. And I think that was really cool. So
that was cool.
Those are my takes. Beth, where can the people find us?
Our website is fruitloopspod.com, and we use Fruit Loops Pod for all of our social media.
This is a weekly podcast, and new episodes drop every Thursday. So until next time, look alive, y'all. It's crazy out there.
I'm an American vigilante. I have a question for you. What would you do if someone you cared about was abducted, taken from you? Would you call me? Would you care about how I got them back? Download American Vigilante now.
Is the pressure of your wedding day being perfect from sunrise to sunset weighing on your mind? Planning a wedding is stressful. But guess what? We are here to help. On the Bridezilla podcast, we celebrate love and help you plan your wedding day. We're all about keeping it real and having fun every step of the way. So whether you're just starting to plan or counting down the days, we're here to help you stay cool, calm, and collected. We have expert tips and amazing guests like wedding dress designer Haley Page. Let's get this party started and embrace your inner Bridechilla. Listen to Bridechilla wherever you get podcasts or visit us at thebridechilla.com.